Hello to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5am Club. It's Saturday morning, I've got the day off work, and I've decided to go on a bushwalk here at North Mead. And I'm on a track here which will eventually take me up to Castle Hill, depending on how far I decide to walk. But I'm taking this bushwalk, this path, for the first time. So we'll see. I've got plenty of time. I've got plenty of daylight ahead of me. The weather looks good. And I've got a few book summaries to do as well. So I've got things to occupy my mind with and to make me productive. So I'm not the sort of person who just walks through the bush and listens to the birds and takes it easy. I always use these opportunities to be a backdrop to my Jim's 5am Club episodes so that we can all go on a journey together. We can go on a journey of discovery where we learn and grow, as well as get to experience the beauty of this city of Sydney, this suburban life that we have. And I just love this. This is just so beautiful. It's just like a rainforest, within 5 kilometres of my home. So I'm still sticking to my LGA, trying to do the right thing. Not quite sure what other people have been doing over the past 3 months, but my wife is a stickler for the rules, a lot more than what I am, but she's insisting that we do the right thing, and in order to keep peace in my life, having been married for 36 years this year, you understand that being respectful of your partner's needs and sensitivities is also an important part of staying in a loving relationship. Anyway, talking about relationships, today's book is probably a parallel. I'm going to be talking about a book entitled The Origins of Political Order. How funny is that? The Origins of Political Order by an author named Francis Fukuyama. Francis Fukuyama is the author of this eye-opening book. It's always great to read and to tap into OPE, other people's experiences, because I think we all understand that if we lived our life on our own, we would only get a slither of experience. Whatever happens to us will be our worldview. But by reading, by embracing and welcoming OPE, other people's experiences, either through history, through poetry, through theatre, you name it, regardless in terms of how you go about it, by broadening our horizon and our scope, then we become better able to have a more balanced worldly view, rather than to rely on our own limited experiences. Check this out. This tree has fallen across the river, and I guess in years gone by, these trees that have fallen such across the river, across the creek, would have been the bridges for previous communities. And then humans used that, innovated on it, and built themselves bridges. Fantastic. There's another tree down here that's fallen across the river. I'll try and come down here to try and get a different angle, because it is quite pretty. And I'd imagine it'd be quite interesting for snakes as well. There's another tree over there. I guess as a kid, what I would be tempted to do, I won't do as an adult, would be to try and walk across there, just balance myself and walk across. There you go, there's the other tree on the other side over there. But a wonderful experience for young people wanting to express their balancing skills. Anyway, let's get into this book summary, because I've been yapping along for a bit of a while, but it is so beautiful here that I just can't help myself. This is poetry. This is absolute poetry, and I'm indulging in it. So I encourage everyone to try and make the most of the places that they live in, to discover the suburbs, to discover the beauty around them. Anyway, the first observation that comes from this author in this book is where he says that human beings are quite funny. We cooperate to compete, and then we compete in order to cooperate. We are all programmed, according to the author, in the same way. And yet, we all have different aspirations, different principles, and different perspectives on life. We are indeed very, very unique, very, very similar, and yet very, very different in many, many ways. So the first formal point to come out of this author is that humans are naturally inclined to favour their families over anyone else or anything else. And given that I'm a father and a grandfather now, and I've grown up in a tight family unit with cousins, uncles and aunts, I understand and I appreciate the point that the author here is making, is that genetically we are inclined to favour our families and people who are like us over everyone else. While humans are social beings, we thrive on being and living together, more so with people of similar sort of beliefs and I guess bloodlines to what we have, similar races. And it's been the way that it's always been. So genetically, I guess I remember reading in another book, and it is a little bit controversial, but what the author said in the other book was that, we love people who are just like us, who think like us, who look like us. And what happens is that we see other people of different races, of different religious backgrounds, of different beliefs, of different dress sense, of different political and cultural views as being potential enemies or people who can, cause danger. And that's why the natural inclination is to, push back on people who are different and to welcome people who are very similar. So it's important to understand that we all have a need to experience the feeling of belongingness and kinship. It's critical, and it rules over our rationality. We want to be the same, and we want to, prize things which celebrate our sameness, our belongingness, and our kinship. And hence why people from all, g'day ladies, that people from g'day, have a good day, people from all ages, generated tribes, communities, states and nations to be able to harness that belongingness, that sameness, and to treasure it. Because as we said, people in general prefer those who they know over strangers. So that's a difficult question. It's a really difficult point, because what's happened over the years is you look at political systems, and whenever somebody puts a relative into a position of authority, or people who've got a business or an enterprise, and they end up putting their own people into power, look, sometimes it creates problems, and in other ways it creates a solution. I know that in all the organisations that I've worked for, the people who get promoted, the people who become future leaders, are the ones who are well known. You know, there's an old saying which says, it's not what you know or who you know, but the other saying is, it's not what you know or who you know, but who knows you. So it's important, it's critical. Here's another tree that was once across the creek. It's important to be known. It's important for people to trust you and to see you as one of them. Back in the days at IBM, I remember, you know, the people who used to play squash with Tracy Perkins and the other accounting managers were the ones who eventually became the next accounting managers. You know, I guess for me, it's not my style to purposefully do things just to generate a likeness or people to like me. No, I just do it naturally. But as I said, politically in organisations, you have people who are able to tap into it and to manipulate the system in order to further their interests. So where does this lead us? So we're moving on now to the next formal point to come out of this book, where the author says that states that seek long-term survival must always adapt to the people and to the political environment. So I guess it's a two-way dance. The state needs to lead and to make sure that the community is protected and safe, and it should also provide the foundations for that community to be able to survive into the future, but also enable the community to, what's the word I'm looking for? To work hard, to take personal leadership and to try and replicate and to support the betterment of the tribe, the community, the nation, the state. The author mentions that there are various layers within a society, you know, because tribes at the end of the day are made up, or originally were made up of family members. They were made up of family members who then became leaders of other tribes as they married into other families and other communities. And the tribes then grew, and once you get to a certain point, initially the tribe would solve its own challenges via the family model, the honour model, with certain written and unwritten rules. And then it got to the point where once a group becomes big enough, then you need some sort of independent, central authority to make decisions and solve issues in a way which I guess promotes, nourishes and preserves the rules that people have lived by and want to live by. But as the author alluded to earlier, then by the same token, you also need to be open to change, where you can grow and develop. In 770 BC, China was made up of 23 states that were governed by two political systems. Not today. Have a good day. Confucianism, which was family-based, and legalism, which was merit-based. And there was ensuing fights and battles, and initially legalism won and prevailed, but later lost to Confucianism as it suited the I guess the system, the tribes, the nation better in terms of what their cultural needs were. But They tried both, and they decided to stick to one. So the point that the author here is making is that systems that are ruled, that favour families, are naturally inclined to survive, especially in a world where family values prevail. I guess what we're noticing of late, and I've come to a juncture now, I've come to a crossroad, so I can either go that way or this way. And we've got some signs here which show a bandicoot and some footsteps. Which way do I go? Look, I think I'll stick to this side of the creek, at least I know where I am and I can head back and be safe. And next time I come down here, I'll take the other path and see where it leads me. So, other systems have evolved over time. In the Middle East, we had dictators, but they hindered, to a certain extent, family members and connections taking power, according to the author. Because what happened, and you probably see this to a certain extent when you look at the monarchy system in England, where you've got the royals there and you've got Harry, going his own way. And what they're saying is that successes sometimes lead to weaknesses and decline, because it's not based on merit, it's based on bloodline, and bloodline doesn't always work. So the last point to come out of this book is where the author says that the masses will always win in the long run, and favoritism for the rich can only last for so much, for so long. So I guess democracies, the reason why democracies have been so popular is that, I guess, to a certain extent they work, but they're not perfect. I guess we all can accept and can acknowledge that democracy, even though it's a great theoretical system, doesn't always work the way it's got to work. So the last few points to come from this author is where we talk about, stand on this rock over here for the gentleman to cross over, is where we talk about how Europe evolved over time with the church being the greatest authority, as it valued and promoted family ties and family values and kept communities united. But as we see, as we know, modern day society, modernity, doesn't quite favour or support family. And the last place that people go to these days is to the church to ask permission or to seek authority. And it's only in the last 1 or 2 generations that I've noticed. When I grew up, the church, for me, my family, was the centre of our lives. Whereas if I say that to anybody these days, they will think that, I have extremist views. Believe it or not, what was the centre of society, 2 generations ago, now if you kind of suggest that the church, has some sort of authority over people's life, you'll be seen as an absolute fool, which is very sad. Because as we see, we know that society is decaying. We know that there are challenges and problems afloat. But what can we do? All we can do is just roll with the punches and just try and live our life as best we can. as honestly as we can and aligned to our values, our goals, and our beliefs. Here we have a lovely little bridge. How beautiful is this? A lovely bridge which crosses back over the creek. I think I've crossed back over a couple of times now. I've lost count. So let's finish up. I'll get onto the bridge here and we'll finish up this episode. So I guess some of the big challenges that we face is that we have ownership and inheritance that creates wealth and holds on to wealth, and the rich get richer, leading to tremendous inequality amongst families, especially amongst families who haven't had the opportunity to generate wealth. And history shows, this is a nice little point to end off this book summary, history shows that unification starts with inclusion and ends with discrimination. So we're getting to the point, I guess, where we have tremendous amount of inclusion, but that inclusion also generates exclusion as well. How can that be? Through discrimination. If you're a Christian in today's world, you voice your Christian beliefs about same-sex marriage, you express your Christian beliefs about abortion, and as I said before, instead of being applauded, there are people who want to rip you to shreds and say that you are a bigot, you discriminate, and that you're an enemy of people. So it's difficult times indeed. So that's why a lot of people keep their political views, their religious views to themselves. And as well now with COVID-19, whilst you've got a small minority of people who voice their anti-vax, their freedom choices, what actually happens is that the majority of people, the silent majority, I should say, are basically keeping their views to themselves because they fear being attacked if they actually voiced their opinion. Today, Saturday, what we'll see today is we'll see the first vaccination rate for New South Wales hit 90%, which is a phenomenal outcome for New South Wales, given that a few months ago, if you looked at social media and listened to all the anti-vax hyperbole, you'd think that the majority of the people were anti-this and anti-that. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. We'll come together at a different location with a different message, a message of empowerment, where we can be partners in each other's development, and we'll see where the path leads us. And you're most welcome to join me on this journey, where we're, as we said, partners in each other's development, and see how we can grow, develop, learn. Because as we mentioned before, learning is the process of attaching the unknown to the known. The more you know, the more you're capable of learning and knowing. So we need to be life learners. We need to continue to strive, to grow, develop, and become better versions of ourselves, and to just keep that momentum going. Take care, Yasas, and we'll chat again. Bye for now.